Welcome back to the Virtual Antics Podcast. I am very happy today because I have the amazing Emma Hull here on my podcast, and she is absolutely amazing. Can't wait for you guys to hear her journey and what she has in store for us. She's here to open our minds to the infinite possibilities that are available to us when we allow ourselves to dream and stop sabotaging ourselves. Through her personal journey, she knows firsthand that her approach works, and she's here to share it with the world. Welcome, Emma.
No, thank you, Natalie. It's a wonderful pleasure to be here with you.
Yeah, it's amazing to have you here. Where are you from?
I'm originally from England, but I'm joining you today from British Columbia in Canada, which is now my home.
That's amazing. I love that. So can you tell us a little about your journey, how you got to this place and kind of what you learned firsthand?
Gosh,
A loaded question, I know.
so, so much to learn. Um, well, let me start by telling you where I am. So I am at a place now. I'm 47. I live on my own. I run my own business. And I am so happy. My life is peaceful and calm and fulfilling and rewarding. And I hadn't realized, when you dial it back to when I was 40, how miserable I was. And so it's interesting when you get yourself out of the hole and then are able to reflect back and see how bad things got. But I was married to my second husband, living in a big house on a lake. I had a great job with the local government in leadership. We had all the toys. We went on overseas vacations. So I had everything that I had been told I should aspire to, right? But I wasn't happy. I was drinking pretty much every day, withdrawing from friends, not wanting to connect to people, crying all the way to work because of the stress of that job, miserable at home, and beating myself up for being such an ungrateful bee for not loving this life that I had. So it was an incredibly miserable place because I was in this inner turmoil. And then I was able to realize that it's okay to want something different, and actually started listening to my inner voice instead of shutting it down. And through that journey, which is really, the gap between 40 and 47 is really the journey of where I came to accept myself and recognize that my dreams and my aspirations were valid just because they didn't fit inside the nice little box that I'd been trained to put them in. And so I started chipping away at creating my life my way.
Isn't that crazy? That's not something that comes natural to us. We actually have to sit down, think, and plan about what our lives are going to be like, right? I know we were just having a conversation earlier kind of about like marriage and kids and things like that. You're kind of like expected to go through all these steps in the right order. If you're not, you're probably going to be judged by at least one person. And that's scary to think about because we just want everyone to love us. We just want love, but there's always, not love all around the world. So I think that is amazing, no matter what age you are, that you get to realize that, you are in charge of your life and you get to choose what makes you happy. I think that is amazing.
Thank you. And that's what I teach a lot of my life coaching clients to do. Is everyone wants to make the right decision. And I teach people how to listen to themselves, to check in with their heart, to know what their values are, so that they do make the right decision for them, not as per defined by whatever norms are in your group. So, but yeah, we've been taught to not listen to our hearts, not listen to our intuition, to push things aside. And especially as women, I think, as very much putting ourselves last after family. And yeah, so learning how to honor yourself And because then, I look at your story. When you do that, like, look at you thriving and all the opportunities that you've created for your team to thrive instead of us just being kind of in the shadows, in the background. We actually get to really shine, let our lights be bright.
Yeah, and it kind of goes same for personal life and business, right? Because you need to know what you want your business to look like in the future. You want to know how your team, like my team is run different than any company I've ever worked with, because I had a job that told me I had 2 days to give birth and I'd have to go back to work. Didn't respect time off or leave or nothing. And so my team gets to work when they want. They have to-do lists and they get to work as many hours as they want. And I just think there's some beauty into really like defining, what changed and impacted your life and what do you want to change to make the world better.
Yeah, absolutely. You need to have a plan and a vision and a purpose, because otherwise you're just on this groundhog day of just get up and do the same thing. So figuring out why are you here? And for me, my purpose is to inspire other people by living my life, living my dream. And so I get to do that. But in designing what that looked like for me, I had to sit down and figure out, well, what works for me. I live with anxiety and depression, have done since I was a teenager. And I realized that a 9 to 5 high pressure job is just too much for me and my energy and my emotional well-being. And it's funny because I have the journal of when I was dreaming this, like, what if I were to start my own business? And it's like, what if I only worked 4 days a week and I start work at 10 a.m. and I finish at 4 p.m. and I get a 1 hour lunch? And guess what my day looks like? That's it. I have a 4-day work week with basically 5 hours. And it's amazing. And because I listen to myself and I know that I need to do that, I have not been on antidepressants for years now. I don't suffer from anxiety and depression. I definitely have, like, I get anxiety, but not like clinical anxiety that overwhelms me. Like, I definitely have self-doubt because I get to spend the time I need nourishing and nurturing me. And then that time when I'm not sitting with my clients, I'm doing things that fill me up. Like, I've taken the time to think about, what do I love doing? I love just sitting outside in nature, and I'm allowed to do that. Whereas when I was growing up, you weren't allowed to sit around and do nothing. That was not an option. So really stopping and checking in with yourself and asking yourself, if I could have anything, what would I have? And take like your most outrageous dream and put that up as your goal. And then have little goals towards it. Like any business plan, we have a big goal. You don't just start out saying, okay, this year I'm going to earn 1 million. You kind of say, okay, that's my 10-year goal. And then you have steps along the way. Same for your life. And so figure out what your big dream is and what is a little step that you can take towards that.
Yeah, that's really important. And, life is always ever changing, right? And our lifestyles are changing, where we live, who's in our lives, our schedules. So, how often would you say that we need to go back and reflect on ourselves and say, is this working for me? When do we come to that point where we have to reflect what we really want?
Yeah. Well, it's very individual, but I would say at least once a year.
Mhm.
And you can do that, you know, New Year's resolutions are such an ingrained thing, but that isn't necessarily the right time. Like, if that works for you, great. Maybe you do it on your birthday. Maybe there's a different date, the date you started your company or something like that. Personally, I love the seasons, and so doing it quarterly, at the equinox and the solstice can be really nice. Or you could even do it monthly as well. But at least once a year, you want to be checking in and seeing, how far have I come? Where am I on my plan? And do I want to make changes to my plan?
That's awesome. I actually do this and I do it a little opposite than you. I do it on a day that's really hard for me, which is, the day that my father's birthday. So my dad passed away in 2015 and we were big on birthdays. We love birthdays. So his birthday is always, and mine is always really hard for me. So that's when I go back and because it gives me something to look forward to, right? I start getting excited again. And so I think I really like doing it in the hard moments because it gets me out of that funk. And then I get to dream this crazy, amazing life. And, I really get to see it and plan it. So I do recommend if you have a day that's really hard for you, that could be really nourishing as well.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
Can I ask you, do you consult with your dad while you're doing this planning?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. I mean, in my day-to-day life, kind of not like every day, but there are definitely moments where I'm just like, Dad, what do you think of this? Or like my daughter's turning 7 next week. I'm like, Dad, can you believe this? Like, this is crazy. I really talk to him, with everything, anything realizations. But when I'm making that plan specifically, yeah, I definitely am like, man, my dad would have loved this. Like we love to travel, and my dad loved to travel. And we actually take his ashes wherever we're traveling. And so that way he can kind of go with us. And so yeah, that's something I really love to do is just kind of talk with him and plan my future on his birthday.
Oh, that's great. I really like that idea. And actually, I have lost both of my parents, and my mum's birthday is in March and my dad's birthday is in November. So that would be great for 6-month planning. So maybe I'll consult with each of them. And I talk to them all the time too.
That's amazing. Yeah, there's something comforting. I mean, of course, the first year is always the hardest, but then it just becomes a comfort thing. And, it's the person that you always, instead of having to call them and wait for them to answer, now they're right there. So it works out beautifully. So, what are some of the challenges you've seen people go through maybe when they're trying to design this dream life of theirs?
Self-doubt and guilt.
Mhm.
All the shoulds come up and people just start really denying themselves and saying, well, no, I shouldn't be selfish. I should be grateful for what I have. And really, my work is around teaching people to love themselves so that they can tap into their needs without guilt. But for everyone at some level, it's that people pleasing and guilt and self-doubt.
It's crazy how we've taken as a society normal words like anxiety or selfish and we turn them into a negative thing. Selfish doesn't have to be negative. Sometimes it's a really positive thing. And so I always find that really interesting that we've just put this negative tone on these words that should be part of our everyday life, and like I always tell my daughter has anxiety and I always tell her, it's okay to have anxiety. That's a normal feeling. It's just how you deal with it and how you go forward is what matters. And I think we have to start, putting that negative energy on these word associations. So that way we can live, a better life and a truer life to ourselves, and we can allow ourselves to do those things.
Yeah, our inner dialogue really is so powerful. We underestimate how much difference that makes. And yeah, I think if we can reprogram our thoughts around words like selfish and like self-care and realize that, it sounds cliche, but it's true. You cannot pour from an empty cup. And if you take the time to nourish yourself with self-care that's meaningful to you. So that might mean going to the spa, it might mean eating chocolate, it might mean hiking a mountain. It needs to be self-care that works for you. Taking that time out to do that without guilt so that you actually get to recharge your batteries properly then allows you to show up more fully to serve, whether it's your clients, your family, whoever.
Yeah, and this is definitely not a journey that anyone should go alone. I think you need that accountability, and that's exactly what you do, right? You provide that accountability and guidance to kind of show them how to go through this.
Absolutely. Yeah. Life coaching provides a safe space where you can share your thoughts without judgment and be truly understood. And then also brainstorm ideas. But then as a life coach, what I do is I help you understand your thought processes and why you are sabotaging yourself and the ways that you're sabotaging yourself, so that you can, I teach my clients how to catch themselves starting to go into an unhelpful thought cycle, how to interrupt that using different techniques. Somatic and breath work is a really good one. So interrupting that thought and then replacing that thought or that behavior with something that is going to contribute towards your greater goal. And we do a lot of thought work on, this future version of yourself. What are they like? What would they do? What would this version of you do? This, version 2 of you, how would they respond and react in a situation? And so you can start consciously programming yourself to be that person that you've got up there as your future goal.
That is an amazing, beautiful thing. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Emma. Where can we find you if we want to learn more about you and your services?
Oh, thank you, Natalie. It's been a pleasure. I really enjoyed sharing stories with you. You can find me online. My website is lifeuntethered.com, and then that's got links to all my socials there. Feel free to send me an email or connect with me.
Perfect. I'll make sure I put that in the show notes as well. Well, we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for joining the Virtual Antics Podcast.